Hey, I'm Tim. I'm part of the Midnight One Half, and I do all the cheesy sounds.
My name is Tyler Lyle. I am the singer of the Midnight, and I also write songs with Tim.
I grew up playing the drums. My dad is a drummer. My mom and dad are both actors and actresses, and so it was sort of a natural transition to go into music. My brother is a musician, so I played the drums for 10 years, and then when I was about 18 years old, I kind of got into production. I could play a little bit of piano, I could sing a little bit, I could play the guitar. And sort of it was a natural progression to kind of be my own little band, and I thought that was really fun. And so I've basically been producing and writing for other artists for sort of 10 years.
I was born in a small town called Carrollton, Georgia, which is about an hour and a half outside of Atlanta. Really small town in the deep south. My dad was the music minister, was surrounded by gospel music and bluegrass and blues and classic country music. I lived in Atlanta for about 7 years and got involved in the folk music scene there. There's a great venue called Eddie's Attic. A lot of amazing musicians came out of there, Jennifer Nettles and Sean Mullins and John Mayer. And in 2010, I was a part of a songwriting competition thing there called the Open Mic Shootout. I won it. I got to work with some amazing people, got to record a record there. So that's sort of my spiritual home for my music is Eddie's Attic. In 2011, I moved to the West Coast to be closer to a manager that I had started working with after a breakup. I felt like I needed to leave Atlanta. And so I came out here and signed a publishing deal. And the reason that Tim and I were put in a room together was because this A&R who had signed me to a publishing deal thought it might be interesting for us to work together.
I met Tyler back in, I think it was 2012 or 13, and we met in a session. We just kind of clicked, and we wrote some songs, and we kind of both knew that there was a chemistry there, and that grew into the Midnight. So this is a different thing, and I'm sort of just growing into it, and it's very rewarding, and I like having this sort of interaction with the fans and how it's a community and stuff. It's really fun.
It was great to meet Tim because our interests aligned only a very little bit. If it was a Venn diagram, there was just the tiniest little sliver in the middle, which is, I think, why Tim and I work so well together, because he's sort of the master of his own space, as I am the master of mine. Where it overlaps is the fun part.
I had been told he wrote incredible lyrics, and I think his publisher at the time said, oh, he's great, he's working with the Dixie Chicks at the moment, he was writing for their current album. And so I knew he was a talented lyricist and a kind of a folk artist, but I remember just before going to the studio and meeting him, Googling his name, and then his Bandcamp came up, and there was the current album that was out at the moment, Golden Age and the Silver Girl, I think, and there's a track called Things Are Better, which I immediately fell in love with, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be fine. This is gonna be great.
Raphael Sadiq had a cool studio in North Hollywood, and Tim was working out of there. I recognized sort of early on, co-writes in LA are sort of like blind dates that you're set up on. Sometimes you can write a really good song but not really gel with the person that you're working with, and sometimes you never write good songs, you just like hanging out with that person.
I actually come out of a breakup at that time, and was just sort of at a space where I just felt like writing something that meant something to me, and we wrote We Move Forward on that day, and I started playing these chords on the piano, and Tyler was like, I like that, and then 10 minutes later he had the verses written for that song.
We wrote We Move Forward really quickly, and there was something nice about not having the pressure of writing to the briefs. Sometimes a publishing company will send you, who's looking for songs or that sort of thing. But we made the conscious decision early on to just kind of write whatever we felt like writing. And so I took it as a songwriting experiment to write visuals rather than narrative. As we formed the Midnight, as we decided that the 80s sort of direction was what we were gonna go, I took that as sort of creative liberty to try and write this little world of images. we live in an age where you combine, not confine. The more you paint yourself into a corner, the more you're limited to what you can do. And there's so much inspiration to draw from, you know.
Yeah, it's an evolving thing, and I think it informs. We'll have creative conversations. Like yesterday in the car home from a gig, we were talking about what are we gonna do next, and it's those kind of brainstorming sessions where you think about what the next step is, and it gets us fired up, and it informs what what direction I take production-wise with the tracks, and it forms. It might spur an idea. I might send you a rough beat, and you'll be like, "Ooh, this makes me think of so and so," and then I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Let's do something. Let's call it this. And you're like, great, we could make it. And it's that ping pong thing, and that's the fun part, I think.
This genre is just a palette of colors, right? And everybody has access to all different palettes. And there are people that don't like to hear an acoustic guitar, and there are people that love to hear like Lynn drums, and like it's all the same song. It's all the same pop music. It's just whatever avenue you feel like connecting with, because we want our fans to love what we're into, and and that's a cool pressure that we didn't feel before we started playing shows.
Oh, it's true. It certainly has gone from being Twitter handles and Instagram to, oh my God, yeah, I recognize your name from your profile, and I think it really connects with you in a visceral way when someone comes up to you and says, you got me through this time, and I was really down, or whatever it might be. It's very humbling, and it humanizes what otherwise is communication through screens. It wasn't planned out from the beginning, but as I was finishing Kids on the production side, and as we released it, as I was tweaking the details, it became kind of clear to us that we had a longer story to tell, and I think the next album, without revealing too much, I think is going to be, I see it as the sort of, if Kids was the kids on bikes and youthful and innocent, I think we've been talking about the next one will be kind of the moody teenager who's dealing with finding himself or herself and going to high school dances and falling in love and breaking up and watching horror movies on his little screen TV in his room and closing the door to the parents and being introverted and surfing the web in the early 90s and all that stuff. And that's kind of exciting, and it's just only taking shape now, really, I think. So I think that's not saying too much, right?
Yeah, I think we're good.
And our next single's coming out. No, I'm just kidding.
But it's good for the fans to know that Kids is one story in a larger narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.